Live with studios in Midland and Odessa, you're watching CBS7 First Alert News at 9 on the CW West Texas.
The best decision. I think it was meant to be, and the fear of having sisters, it has gone away because they work really well together, and they can separate what being sisters and being teammates can be. So it's awesome.
They say that sisters stick together, and that's even more true for twin sisters. Coming up in just a few minutes, we hear from Sarai and Anai Arona, who are fulfilling their childhood dreams on the court. Good evening, and thanks for joining us here for CBS7 News at 9 on the CW. And thanks to those of you who are joining us on our CBS7 YouTube page. I'm Jay Hendricks. Topping our news on Tuesday, the Odessa City Council voted 5-0 to repeal Article 117 of the City Code of Ordinances, called the Percentage for the Arts Program. Those projects include things like water treatment, fixing roads, and more. Under that ordinance, for any capital improvement project that exceeds $250,000, 1% of the total is set aside for public art. For example, with a $95 million water treatment plant project, $950,000 would be taken out to fund public art associated with the water treatment plant. Mayor Javier Hoven says the council still supports arts, but not necessarily of other necessary improvements.
There is support for that, but what it is it cannot come at the expense of roads, of water, sewer, things of that nature. We are competing because of the high cost of materials, the delay, the high cost of labor. Every penny that we can put and keep within these projects to update our infrastructure is critical at this point.
The city still funds Odessa Arts through the hotel occupancy tax that sends 1/7 of the revenue given to the city from the tax to Odessa Arts. In the past, that totaled $450,000. Now, in the past, the amount given to Odessa Arts through that tax, as we said, was about $450,000. In a statement today to CBS7, Odessa Arts Executive Director Randy Ham said in part, quote, each year the arts and culture sector adds $6 million in economic activity to the city of Odessa. It is not the optional frosting on the cake of this city. It is the eggs, flour, and sugar. An investment in public art is paid back many times over, not only in the overall economic benefit, but in the municipal tax dollars that flow directly back to the city, end quote. You can read Ham's full statement by going to our website, CBS7.com. The president of the Midland Bar Association announced his candidacy for Midland County District Attorney. That announcement came from Kyle McCardle. His campaign website says that he is currently the trial team chief for the 441st District Court. This comes a couple of weeks after current Midland County DA Lauren Nodolf announced that she would not be seeking re-election. A traffic alert now. There was a train car crash at the intersection of South Marienfeld and West Front Street earlier today. Midland Police and Midland Fire Department responded to the scene, and according to the city of Midland, they say there were just minor injuries. They say they will continue to investigate, and if more information is released, we will pass that along to you. In the month of October, the Midland Animal Shelter posted one of the best months of keeping animals alive. The shelter had 319 dogs and cats leave the building without being euthanized. That is a 20% increase from the numbers in August. In fact, new management, miscommunication, and restructuring procedures are just a few of the problems that the Midland Animal Shelter has faced in the last 6 months. Despite those challenges, the shelter has had recent success.
But to actually see it in action, it's really heartwarming to us because it means that more animals are home for the holidays.
Even though the shelter reached an 80% no euthanization rate, they still know there is work that needs to be done. We are going to talk your weather forecast now. If you were outside today, strong winds out there across West Texas, a lot of things blowing around. Chief Meteorologist Tom Teefer-Teller joins us now. Tom, any chance those winds will come back tomorrow?
It looks like we're going to see a little bit of breeze in our forecast, but not to the levels we saw today. Let's take a look at those peak wind gusts. Upwards close to 50 miles an hour across the Permian Basin, gusts of 51 in Wink. But strongest back here across Eddy County down towards the Guadalupe Mountains National Park with gusts nearing 70 miles an hour. Things have calmed down quite a bit except at Guadalupe Pass. Gust still is at a 47 there, but everybody else really starting to calm down as temperatures are cooling off. A little on the chilly side. We're already down to 45 in Hobbs, lower 50s across the Permian Basin. And in the mountain areas, Alpine down to 46 already. So we're going to see a little more breeze in our forecast with that front moving across. And it's going to keep things on the cool side, especially coming up this weekend for the Parade of Lights. It's going to be rather cold coming up Saturday evening for making for a seasonable weekend.
It is that time of year again, time for Tom's Coats, and as the temperatures drop, many West Texans are struggling to stay warm, and that's why Chief Meteorologist Tom Teefer-Teller is hosting a coat drive. CBS7 looking for gently used or new jackets or sweaters for the drive. In fact, we got some donations today, and we'll be taking those to the Salvation Army. Thank you. You can donate jackets and coats to the locations listed there on your screen. They're also posted up on our website. Just go to CBS7.com. Looking now in the community, but we do want to warn viewers that this next story includes references to suicide. One mother wants to take the loss of her son and turn it into a bright spot. A year after she lost her son to suicide, Carolyn Lujan is launching Jack's Gifts. It's a toy drive benefiting kids at Midland Memorial Hospital. Now, after his death last year, the boy received an outpouring of support from family, friends, and teachers who participated in his honor walk. He was taken to an operating room for organ donation. You're seeing that video there. They also raised a signed flag over University Medical Center Hospital in his honor. That support was a reflection of his kindness to the people around him.
It gives him a legacy, and it brings a positive into what has happened instead of keeping a negative, and to be able to help other people and help other kids. I feel like Jack would have loved to have done that.
Lujan also wanted to use the drive to raise awareness about mental health, hoping that the message of the toy drive will reach someone in need.
I would love to have it as a bright spot instead of a dark area, and that we can bring awareness to suicide, and that there is a need for help.
Toys can be donated at Home Hospice in Odessa or through an Amazon registry. We have that posted up at CBS7.com. Lujan encourages anyone in need to call the National Suicide Hotline at 988, and those grieving to attend free counseling services at Home Hospice. Now to an update. Construction work has begun on the Permian Basin Behavioral Health Center in Midland. It's being built on a 54-acre site and is projected to have 200 beds for short and long-term psychiatric patients. The construction firm Robbins and Morton released these pictures of what the facility will look like. There will be a crisis stabilization unit, outpatient center, and community education center. The construction is set to be finished in late 2025. Good news for Texas. According to AAA, gas prices in Texas are the lowest in the nation. In fact, the Texas average is $2.75 per gallon. Nationwide is $3.25. AAA predicts prices to fluctuate through December because of holiday travel. In Midland, the average price per gallon is $2.81, while in Odessa, they average $2.74 per gallon. The world's largest annual climate summit is underway in the United Arab Emirates, a major oil-producing country. Today, delegates formally approved a deal to adopt a new fund to help vulnerable nations cope with costly climate disasters resulting from drought, floods, and rising sea levels. The UAE has already pledged $100 million to the fund, while the U.S. also pledged a significant amount. Over the next 2 weeks, world leaders will also try to hammer out a plan to accelerate the transition away from fossil fuels. If you don't have plans this weekend and love wrestling, then this story we're going to talk about is probably for you. Old School Wrestling is having a revival this Saturday, and it's going to be held at the Ector County Coliseum. The event used to be one of the biggest wrestling shows in West Texas before a family tragedy put a pause on it. OSW was run by Fred Urban for years, but when he passed away, the show stopped. Now, years later, his daughter and many other local wrestlers decided to continue his legacy and bring back Old School Wrestling back to Odessa.
Even though Fred is now gone and passed away, God rest his soul, but now his daughter Tori wants to bring back that feeling, that excitement, that atmosphere, and that family entertainment like only OSW can bring.
The original OSW gave back to the community by donating to charitable organizations and working with local schools. And this new era of OSW hopes to continue those traditions.
Because we really are trying to not only bring back that nostalgic feeling of what OSW used to provide, but we're also trying to showcase and let people know that, hey, OSW is not only back for one night, OSW is here to stay.
OSW will be in Barn B at the Ector County Coliseum this Saturday. If you want more information on the event, you can go to our website at CBS7.com. The Permian High School Panther Paws on the streets of New York City tonight as the Permian varsity dance team finished their show at Radio City Music Hall. Take a look. The girls took the main stage just before the Rockettes. Yes, those Rockettes. Permian High School posted about the performance saying, quote, "This is such an exciting opportunity for these young ladies," end quote. The team also got to take a class with the Rockettes before performing as their opening act. Odessa College twin sisters Sarah E. and Anna E. Arona have been sharing the same volleyball court for their entire life. And now they are fulfilling their dreams by playing at the collegiate level together. Their journey was inspired by their mother, who was a volleyball player in Mexico. Sarah E. and Anna E. have done everything together since they were little, from having the same classes in school to sharing the same volleyball court.
I think it's been a really good journey. I grew up with her, so I grew up playing with her, and it's been fun how we've made it this far, and it's cool to be playing with her.
They have won championships together as kids and in high school, and their plan is to continue to play volleyball at the professional level together. Both the basketball teams at UT Permian Basin are having a good start to their season. Falcons men and women both have 4-1 records this year. Tonight they began conference play on the road. Both UTPB teams are in Laredo to take on Texas A&M International. CBS 7 Sports Director Jacob Brandenburg will recap both of those games tonight on CBS 7 News at 10. And across Texas, the Cowboys have an 8-3 record this season, one of the best in the NFL, leading the league in scoring. Cowboys are also second in passing defense and total defense. Critics say Dallas is putting up those numbers against bad teams, and right now the Cowboys have a chance to prove themselves against a good team, the Seattle Seahawks.
The teams we've played records haven't been great, but I can promise you, everybody that comes in and everybody that we play, we do get their best shot. And not to say I don't think everybody else does that, but when you play the Dallas Cowboys, I can promise you, the other teams, it is a little bit bigger than some of the games that they play.
With Pete's background being a defensive, coach, as far as the way they play, the importance of the run game, I think they're definitely doing some unusual things from a formation standpoint, that'll challenge you during the course of the week in the prep. They will challenge our run defense, so it's definitely a focal point for us.
Yeah, we've put ourselves in a great position. To set ourselves apart offensively. Obviously, make more of an identity for ourselves, which is to take more shots, to be aggressive. The play style is immaculate and be physical and all that, but these are where the big games are won, should I say. So very excited for this.
That game, by the way, is just now in the third quarter. Be sure to tune in to CBS 7 News at 10 for more with Jacob Brandenburg. Now for a look at today's top headlines shown here in real time with real viewers at CBS7.com. You can see all of these stories and more by downloading our app or visiting our website at CBS7.com. Still ahead, we have a lot more for you. In fact, a trip to El Paso. We're going to tell you about the border there and some of the issues they're dealing with coming up in just a few minutes. Across Texas, criminal organizations are exploiting new ways to struggle migrants into El Paso. Instead of climbing the border wall or looking for weak spots along the border, some people are using storm drains to sneak further into the U.S. from Mexico. Efren Mercado has been with Border Patrol for 16 years as a member of the Confined Space Entry Team for 11 years. He says he has seen the worst of what happens when people risk everything to cross the border. Border Patrol says cities' drain systems are like a maze. There are numerous entrances and exits, and while agents know where they are, they can't always get to them all.
Know about it, or we haven't checked it, and then we find out about it, and then they switch tactics. So they're really smart. They know what they're doing.
Otto, by the way, is referring to smugglers. He says they use everything they can to exploit the system. Just last week, Border Patrol found 12 migrants in these storm drain systems. Tune in to CBS7 News at 10 for an in-depth look at this same story.
Well, we're waiting on a cold front to roll in. That's going to bring a little more breeze to the forecast for tomorrow, and also a shot of some cooler temperatures. We'll talk about all that and the weekend up next.
Now, from the CBS7 First Alert Weather Center, here's Chief Meteorologist Tom Tiefertiller.
Well, as we take a look at those wind gusts again today, it was something else. We had a lot of blowing dust and gusts up to 50 miles an hour plus across West Texas into southeast of Mexico. But the good news is things are calming down. Let's take a look at the upper levels. Big trough of low pressure across the western U.S. is going to bring, well, it's going to keep a little bit of wind in our forecast here over the next 24 hours or so. And keep this weather pattern pretty quiet as the Arctic air is bottled up to the north. Nothing too cold in our forecast. Just some seasonal weather here over the next few days. So good for Christmas shopping out there across the area. As we take a look at where all the showers, thunder showers are, they're off across portions of Oklahoma, the Midwest, down into the Arkansas Mist. We're seeing the showers and thunder showers move out of the state of Texas right now. So again, drier conditions are on the way. We still have that next front starting to drop down into parts of the Permian Basin. And we've seen the windy conditions really start to drop off. It's 40 in Lubbock, so we're going to get a little of this chilly air in our forecast overnight tonight into the early morning hours, but it's going to lift back to the north and east for the time being. The way it looks right now that could change. As you know, these slumping air masses, just when you think they're not going to make it into the Permian Basin, they do. So I have to keep that in mind for tomorrow. Right now, My forecast, I'm going with temperatures staying into the 60s for tomorrow. The wind will be up a little bit as we're going to be looking at a gusty west to southwest wind in the forecast coming up for tomorrow, up to around 30 miles an hour or so for tomorrow afternoon. So keep that in mind doing something outdoors, as we're expecting temperatures drop to around 40 overnight tonight. But I think that west wind is going to keep things on the milder side and into the mid 60s for tomorrow afternoon. And really that's the trend through the weekend. So looking a little chilly, but not all that bad for the Parade of Lights coming up in Odessa. If you don't want to brave the cold, you can also watch that on KWWT My 30. We'll be out there live with the whole gang and covering the Parade of Lights and the Christmas Parade in Odessa. And then as we move in towards the rest of the weekend, looking cool and staying that way into next week for Starbright Village in Odessa and the Jingle Bell Jubilee Parade in Midland coming up a week from Saturday.
Coming up in just a few minutes, it's been 5 years since former President George H.W. Bush passed away. We are remembering his life and legacy next here on CBS 7 News at 9 on the CW. Today we are remembering former President and West Texan George H.W. Bush after he passed away 5 years ago today at the age of 94. The former president died in 2018 at his home in Houston. At the time of his death, he was the longest living president in U.S. history. President George H.W. Bush died Friday at the age of 94. The president and his family made the Permian Basin their home for several years. The house at 1412 West Ohio Avenue in Midland is where Bush and his wife Barbara raised their children, including future President George W. Bush. Still ahead, a new donation to Ector County ISD has students reading up a storm. We'll tell you all about the new mobile library when we return. CBS 7 News at 9 on the CW. All right, before we go, Ector County ISD has a new traveling library thanks to a donation from the Education Foundation of Odessa. The van will help support ECISD's Bookworms Literacy Program. The van made its first run this morning, delivering books to refill library vending machines, which are located all across the district. Now, not only will the van carry books, and the little free libraries will also be visible at literacy events throughout the community. ECISD said in a Facebook post that when you see this van rolling across town, you know what that means?
Time to read.
Time to read. That's exactly right. So be looking for those, and look for those vending machines as well. Great chance to get a book into your hands or into your child's hands so that they can read. And certainly that's a big issue we need to address here in this community.
And hang on to those books.
Hang on to those books, yeah.
We just saw a lot of wind today, a little bit more in the forecast for tomorrow as temperatures are going to stay on the cool side out there, and this is going to be the trend into the weekend.
We want to thank you for joining us here for CBS 7 First Alert News at 9 on the CW. We, of course, have more news coming up tonight on CBS 7 News at 10. Have a great night. We'll see you at 10.